Hi, my name is Will Sally. I teach at Mission Vista High School. I'm the CTE department chair and I teach digital photography. And what I'm going to share with you today is about co-creation. So at the end of virtual school, I ended up creating a project for my students that was a co-created project and was personalized for their final. And so what I want to share with you was actually created in Nearpod. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rebuild that inside of a module inside of Canvas. And so I'll share that out as a link as well at the end of the, along with the video. So what the basic idea was is our vision statement at Mission Vista is that our vision is to be the model of educational excellence through discovery, innovation, and growth. And we also have this capstone class that we've been working on and creating these pathways that are discovery pathways, innovation pathways, and growth pathways. So I've been working with my students to kind of work on the idea of pathways, and actually my photo 2 students went out and took a bunch of pictures that were illustrating either discovery, innovation, and growth. So I decided for the final what I was going to do is do a dig final. So the students were going to co-create this through this idea of discovery, innovation, and growth. So if we look here inside of the Nearpod, basically the way that it was set up, we talked a little bit about what the final was going to be, that we were going to work together, we were going to create this project together. I was going to need their input. We did it both as a Zoom call and we walked through the Nearpod at the same time. And then I walked them through what our vision statement was, again, to kind of give them that background and really highlighted the discovery, innovation, and growth. And so then with the discovery part, what I had them do is I did a collaboration sort of a thing. So what I'll probably do is inside of Canvas is go ahead and do it as a discussion. And the first question was really about kind of reflecting back, what do we already know? What did we learn? So what I asked them was, what are 3 things that you really feel like you discovered something new that was really, inspirational to you, or a project that you really liked, or maybe it was a technique that really was kind of like an aha moment that really kind of, built their understanding for the course. And so then once I kind of explained that part, then they started to work and come up with ideas and collaborate. So in a discussion format, the students can then, put in their ideas. And again, I would turn it off so that they can't see other people's ideas first, and they can come up with, what are the 3 things that stood out to them. And this could be done at a unit, it could be done at the end of, a midterm, at any point. Once all those discussion points are in, I would probably go in and start to look at, what did they say, and discuss with them through that Zoom call, really kind of get, pull out some of those best ideas, reinforce those, and kind of the breadth of what the students kind of came up with. Once we kind of set the level of, okay, what did we discover? What have we learned so far in this term? Then we went into innovation. And so I talked to the students about, okay, well, what can we do then to take these concepts that you thought were really powerful, or something you really learned something from, and what can we do to kind of push it and take it a little bit further? How can we innovate? How can we maybe combine multiple parts of some of those, or put a new spin on it, or take it a little bit further than when we just did maybe a technical exercise? And so again, I did another collaboration at that point, had the students put up ideas of how they could interact with those ideas that they came up with and kind of take it a little bit further. And then the final part was the growth part. So what I was saying to them is, what I really want you to do now is to take this idea of, okay, I've got some new ideas of how I can push it further, and then how's that going to demonstrate my growth? What do I need to do in order to show that I've mastered this content? Because again, this was the final, and we were in that time when we were just doing credit, no credit. So I was really focused on what I wanted my students to be able to do is really be able to show that they've mastered some of those core concepts of our class, those core standards. And so what I was asking them is how they could go ahead and show that growth. What I did is I showed them a couple of examples. So I showed them like what the students typically did at school, which was usually a music video. And so then we looked at a rubric. And so here's an example. And this was actually a co-created rubric, one that was built by students from the term before. And what they decided is they wanted kind of 4 main areas for their criteria. So they wanted the requirements, did it meet all the requirements that we came up with as a class? Did it really speak to the narrative part? So in that case, it was a music video. So they were looking at, like, did it tell the story of the song? Did it have good quality? Were they well exposed images? Did they use good composition, those sort of things. And then also, was there a good use of creativity? Did they really kind of try something new, or was it pretty, kind of cliche? Once we looked at that, then we started to talk about project ideas. So what I wanted them to do was to think about, what could you do then? So here's some of those ideas that you had. What are some of the ways you're going to demonstrate that, that you've mastered the content? How are you going to use those core ideas that you came up with, that you thought were, the things that you really enjoyed the most, and how are you going to put those together into your project? And so we did it through a collaboration here. So again, we could do that through a discussion board. And then we talked a little bit about criteria. And so what I asked them was, how will you know that you had a successful project? What is it going to take for you to really feel like you've demonstrated that, this is where I started in my knowledge of photography, or whatever your unit was about, and here I am now. This is really how I've moved forward, or how I've grown and really have started to master that content. And so I had them come up with some ideas of how they were going to do that. And then I had a little quick video here that I walked them through, just talking about what I wanted them to how they were going to explain it. And then they were going to then make a flip grid to explain what it was their idea was. How many pictures they thought they were going to need to demonstrate their mastery, how many techniques they thought they were going to use, how they were going to approach doing it. Was it, something based off of one of the other projects, or were they doing a music video, or did they decide they wanted to do something? A lot of them chose to do things about, being in the quarantine, or, that isolation and those sort of things. And so what they did was pitch the idea to me. And so, I gave them, I think, 3 minutes or something like that in the flip grid to explain what their project was going to be, how they were going to approach it, and then send me the flip grid. And then what I did is, once I saw their flip grids, part of that co-creation is then I gave them feedback, and then also suggestions. Oh, did you think about trying it this way? Or, did you want to try this, that sort of a thing. And we had this kind of back and forth, and with a lot of the students, that we sent back and forth messages through Flipgrid a couple of times as they really kind of figured out what their process was going to be. And then they started going out and doing their shooting. And so that's how we kind of worked together to collaborate. Even though we weren't together in class, we were able to both, as a whole class, share kind of some of those basic ideas. And then individually with the individual students, we also co-created in a way of like what that project was going to be, and giving them feedback as well. Through that process, we were able to kind of collaborate together, work together, and what the students ended up coming up with was really awesome. And I'll share a couple of links to where you can see both the finished product of what the students created, and then also a little, maybe some of that back and forth. So if you really want to dig in and see kind of how it flushed out and how the students kind of work through that process, I'm happy to share a couple of those examples. So that's how I did co-creation. And again, it was a personalized learning project because the kids were they had full autonomy to choose what things they wanted to do, which techniques they wanted, and how many pictures they needed. So they had all sorts of choice in the whole process. But then I was able to also work with them and kind of guide them through that creation of what their final was going to be for their photography project. So hopefully that helps. I'm going to use that same format in different ways for my kids this year as we're in the virtual class, and I hope it can help you as well. All right, bye.